Well, as you can see, we are in record, so I'm going to do this, and then that just lets you know that we are recording. And then I
Okay.
will do this, and then you'll see me. Well, welcome to Basis TI. That's targeted individual. Do you want to be known as a targeted individual?
Yes.
Natalie. Welcome, Natalie. What brings you to Basis? And explain who you are. You've written a pretty horrible story on an email.
Well, I believe that my story is the most horrible story. I think I've got the worst story of any survivor. I don't think anyone has gone through as much as I've gone through. Uh,
Well, you look
like,
very well.
well, I'm actually fighting a bit of a yucky bug at the moment. And I've got a bit of a yucky tummy, and
Oh,
yeah,
dear.
but I take lots of I take lots of garlic and ginger and lots of other things that help seem to fight against it. Sorry, I'm just very conscious. I'm going between looking straight ahead and trying to look over there at you, and I'm just trying to make sure I don't yeah.
Don't what?
Anyway, sorry. Um yeah, I've been through the mill and back several hundred times, I think.
Okay, so
Um
let's. So you would like to be described as a target individual or an experiencer or what? Or do you want to have a badge or a label or something like that?
Well, up until October, I had no label. I was just well, actually, it's all been a little bit. My internet has been child locked from day one, so I've never had full access to information out there. Um, so I didn't know that other targeted individuals really existed properly until last October. But I do believe that I'm possibly the longest living targeted individual in the world. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but
I
that's
mean,
what I currently.
you're not going for the award for the world's best brain donor. I think we
Uh,
reserve that for our politicians.
well, I think I hold the world record of surviving the longest years of going through this technology. I think if it wasn't for my spiritual support, I would have been dead 25, 28 years ago. I think it's a miracle that I'm still alive. Yeah. Um, well, I'm just trying to get. Yeah, I get lots of vertigo attacks. I'm also very conscious that I don't want to get a vertigo attack and go swimming. So I like try and get myself in a position that, if I have a whoosh of dizzy, I can balance myself. I get lots
Okay,
of.
so that's fine. It's not fine. It's okay. Well, the best thing to do is just get in. How did it all start, and when did you find out it had happened in the first place? And we're going to call you a TI, although I prefer to call TIs empowered individual because you're fighting back. You've got fight in you.
Well, well, I was kidnapped by the Epstein Foundation. So you asked me on the phone last night who kidnapped me, and I said Playboy. But I would say actually the monarch was at the head of my kidnap, with Playboy being the facilitator, and and the kind of the go between to kind of put me out into the kind of paedophile network. And I presume you are aware that Epstein worked with scientists and mind control and.
Well, from the point of view of an audience, do explain terms if you're going to use them. And I mean, I don't think it goes without saying, but you're a very attractive woman. When you say you were in a Playboy network, were you through that whole network?
No, no.
No.
Um, as I also mentioned on the phone yesterday, my memories have only just recently been coming back, and it's only because of the trauma that I've been through in the last 5 years that my memories have started coming back. Um,
Well, the purposes of this is for you to get your story across
okay,
for the
all right,
betterment of the public. But
okay.
I don't want you to be traumatized or
Um,
re-traumatize you. So do,
no, no,
I'm
no.
cautioning that, and then I'm just going to let you talk. Okay.
Okay. So in 1981, my parents and I don't believe I used to live in England. My parents and I were visiting England for a wedding. Now, I don't know because of the way my memories have been coming back in the last, well, uh, it's very hard going backwards and forwards. But
Do
in the
what's
last
right by you. Okay.
well,
And
in the last five
for the
years,
purposes of dating, it's 2024, September 2024.
in 2018, my reality was swaying a little bit. Um, but again, it's very hard for me to jump backwards and forwards. Um, I mean, shall I just start from? I was a single mother between 1998 and 2016. I was a single mother. I had no memories of the trauma that I went through as a child. I was just a single mother, and that was me. I was because of everything that happens with this weird mind control and with the kind of the different kind of torture techniques they use, and I think the drugs that they manage to, put towards you when you're being, with your handlers. I Between 1998 and 2016, all I could see was my two children, and I was a single mother. And I was very, very busy because I didn't have any friends or family. The only person that was in my life really was Mike Bond's mother, Claire Bond. And I would say she was probably my main handler. Um, and Mike Bond is, a Cambridge University professor who works at G Research. Designed the IBM, he designed the chip for IBM. He apparently, according to the internet, works for G Research now, but I believe he probably has his own lab at Cambridge University because he's super clever and he is into the virtual reality world, and he is also involved in this new world currency or new whatever currency.
BRICS,
Um, Say again,
the
sorry.
so-called BRICS.
I've not. I spend so much of my time going around in circles. No, I spend
Don't
so much
worry,
of.
don't worry. Just keep
I
talking. Okay.
I haven't done a lot of research on what's out there because of my time. I spend a lot of my time just looking after myself and just trying to keep myself active and distracted so that I can not let what's happening around me interfere with me too much. I try to pretend that nothing's happening, that nothing has happened, and I try to keep myself really busy, really focused, um, and active, and I just try to ignore what's going on. And I have actually I was working as a full-time accountant for, I don't know, maybe 12 years. So when I stopped being a completely full-time mother. But anyway, I don't want to digress too much. Um, Between 1998 and 2016, my focus was just being a single parent to two children. I didn't see anything going on. My thinking was very, very backward. I thought the police were good people. I didn't watch the news because I knew it wasn't true, but I didn't know it was purposely as I didn't know it was as bad. I didn't know it was made up to make people. I knew it wasn't true, but I thought it was not true for the different reasons than what it is. So I didn't watch the news. I didn't pay any attention to politics for many years. But while my thinking was backwards, I thought we were living in a good world. My children went to a good school. We lived in a good neighborhood, and I really enjoyed being a single mother. And I kept myself busy and having two children without friends or family, apart from Mike Bond's mother, and she was the only person I kind of saw regularly for a long time. Um, I didn't see what was going on in the world, and because I had amnesia, I didn't remember being kidnapped. I didn't remember. being raped as a child. I didn't remember being beaten as a child or starved or bullied, or I didn't remember anything. Between 1998 and 2016, I kind of thought I was quite content. I did get upset that I didn't have any family. It did always play on my mind, but I didn't let it affect my children's upbringing. And I made sure that they were always active with swimming and scouts and sailing and, all sorts of things. We were always busy, we were always out. There wasn't time to do any thinking. It was just kind of cooking and baking and packed lunches and taxi runs and, just being busy. But in 2016, my ex moved in with me. And I went from being a very, very busy single mother to someone that stayed at home. And I was working as an accountant still, but I was working at home as an accountant. And between 2016 and the summer of 2017, I just stopped getting out of bed. I spent 2.5 years pretty much in bed. Although I did work with a laptop on, in bed, I wasn't leaving the house. And in 2018, I noticed that my ex was lying to me. And that just kind of got my brain waking up when I saw we went to Amsterdam in July 2018. I fell in love with Amsterdam. I thought it was, I thought the city was the most beautiful place I'd
It's a
ever been.
wonderful place. Very good people there. Yeah.
Well, I fell head over heels in love, and I felt at peace. And I didn't know that I hadn't been feeling at peace previously until I went to Amsterdam and I just felt peace and happiness when I was there. And it was in July 2018 that when we arrived back in England, I noticed and I felt the evil surrounding my house and the neighborhood I'm in at the moment. And we'd only moved to this house in January 17. And by July 18, I mean, two things happened. I came back to this house in July 18, and the evil I felt in the house it was suffocating. And I mean, as soon as we moved to this house in 2017, I felt really sad, really lonely. And I stopped going into the office by the summer of 2017, partly because I was coming home after, I was getting home from work at like 9, 10 o'clock, and the house was just really dirty and messy. And I assumed that my son that was going to university at the time, I just assumed he was making lots of mess. And anyway, it was stressing me out so much. And I thought, I can't go to work in the office if I'm coming home to this mess every day. So I started working at home. So I was tidying up after my son as he was going along. But that was just the beginning of me getting sick and ending up not getting out of bed, because all the things that gang stalkers do in general, they were doing around me. And I was sensing it, and I was getting really sad and unhappy about it, but I wasn't processing it. I wasn't processing it. I just felt the sadness from it. I didn't know what was happening around me. I just felt the sadness and the loneliness. But again, 2018, I get back from Amsterdam and I feel the actual evil of it. I think in 2017, I thought the bad vibes I thought the houses had been built on graves, and I thought lots of people had died in tragic ways. And I thought I was feeling the evil I just thought it was to do with that. In 2018, the evil was just thick. It was just evil and dark. And I said to my ex when we got back from Amsterdam, I didn't want to live here anymore. But I was the one paying for everything, and he just kind of like poo-pooed it under the carpet and ignored me. But also, the other thing that happened in 2018 in July was when we went to Amsterdam, I bought some potions from, they have these shops in Amsterdam where you can kind of buy. I found what I called liquid happiness. It was some kind of liquid in a vial, and you just drank a drop, and you just felt happy because you know I had already just spent a year not kind of leaving the house, and my children and my ex were not coming. They were out 7 days a week, and I was just left on my own. So I was getting a little bit of depression. Well, I was getting a lot of depression actually. I went to the doctors, but the doctors wouldn't give me antidepressants, and that's another story. But I found this liquid happiness, and it was like, wow, it made me feel happy. But I just bought one little vial thing back from Amsterdam to England. It was, just a 15 euro thing. Wasn't illegal, because even though it should be, because it was very, very dangerous and very, very bad for you, I'm sure. Well, I know actually. But I went to my room to get my suitcase, and either one of my children or my ex had opened my suitcase and taken this vial out and tipped it away. But when I approached my ex and my children about it, they made out, no, I was imagining it, it hadn't happened, and it must have tipped out or it must have leaked out. But they didn't answer the fact that they'd left my suitcase open. So I went in my room, and my suitcase it was just a carry-on, was open. And well, I don't like being lied to. And this was a really obvious lie. I was kind of like, who's opened my suitcase? You've left it open, you've like pulled all the clothes, and you've left a mess. And I can see. Why won't you own up and tell me which one of you did it? Anyway, my ex and I had a massive argument because, well, he was just starting to show his true colours at this point. And he actually left for a week. And that was the first time that I think I had a kind of nervous breakdown. Well, it's not the first time actually. It was probably about the 10th time. But that was the current kind of role of the first of my many breakdowns. I literally sat on the floor and cried for about a week and didn't do anything. I was just in such a state, but I didn't know why. I didn't know that my ex was friends with my neighbours. I didn't know that my children and my ex were having all these secret meetings and doing God knows what. I didn't know anything at this point. All I knew was the house was evil. My ex and my children were lying to me, and I was spending 7 days a week by myself. So I was getting depressed, lonely, sad, miserable. And the little incident they did with the suitcase, that was the first of many. But that was me. It was July 18 that kind of started my brain waking up and thinking something's not right here. I don't know what it is, but something's not right. And then there was another little incident in August where again my ex actually left for a week, and again I spent another week sitting on the floor crying, not understanding what was going on. And then in October 18, in September, no, sorry, on my birthday in October in 2017, no one did anything for my birthday. I just bought the house this year, or it's shared ownership. So I just kind of bought a house for us all to live in. I'd spent a very, very dreadful summer getting my son ready for Camp America last minute, which was stressful. I had a terrible client that I later found a computer log that actually said Jet Sam event, and I'm assuming it was referring to the June 2017, because I had a client that was called Jetstream and my son, and I had about 2 or 3 weeks to get my son ready for Camp America, and that was lots and lots of forms. I had to speak to the GP many, many times because my son has autism, and in order to go to Camp America, the doctor had to sign loads and loads of forms. And of course, I was on the phone to Camp America, on the phone to my GP, and we were trying to make sure we had all the forms done for him. I had to drive him to I was driving backwards and forwards between Bransgore and Southampton and Milford-on-Sea. Yeah, Bransgore, Milford-on-Sea, Southampton, and London. And it was, and actually Alton as well, because he had to have his Camp America interview in Alton. And I had to buy him a whole new wardrobe, so he had enough clothes for a month of if he didn't have a washing machine, so he could have fresh clothes every day for a month. Um, I had to pack his suitcase. I had to do the visa forms and the Camp America forms. And it took me 7 solid days of not doing any of my accountancy work while I was getting all of his forms done. This was just the forms. And then I had this horrible client that was ringing me every single day, texting me every single day, emailing me every single day. And I kept saying to him that I was too busy. And that meant he, yeah, more emails, more texts, more phone calls. And I think there was a couple of other things that
But what about
happened.
income? I mean, there must have been something affecting your income.
At this point, my income wasn't affected because I had already spent the previous 5 years kind of organizing clients, things like payroll. It was just everything was done. It was just a click of a button. And then, attach your files to an email to send your clients and VAT returns. Everything was, I think with clients in accountancy, a lot of the work is with the setup, getting them all set up into the different softwares that they need, the payroll and the VAT and the accounts and everything, and getting all their references done. At this point, I was just starting, I think I had about 10 clients on QuickBooks. And once their bank accounts had been all kind of, what's the word? But once their bank accounts had all been synced and I'd been able to make rules in the bank, so lots of the transactions were automatically, so the bank feed was fed into the software, and then once you put the rules in, all of the transactions would just fall into the system. It needed an accountant or a bookkeeper to check it over and then edit the errors that the QuickBooks was making automatically. But it meant that a lot of the work, before QuickBooks, some of the work would have taken an additional 20 hours per client. So QuickBooks was really speeding things up. And I had spent several years getting clients organized. So my work was literally, I think by 2018, my work was at a point where I didn't need to do as much as I had previously. So I could go into a trance, if you like, for 6 hours and not do any work, but it didn't matter because something that had previously taken me 20 hours, I could do in half an hour. So I'd already put the hours in. I mean, in 2015 and 2016, and probably part of 2017, I was working between 12 and 16-hour days. So I'd made myself quite physically ill because I was doing too much and I was going to bed too late and getting up too early. So I'd put the work in, I'd put the time in, and so my business was kind of just rolling along. But this particular client in June 17, he was just pressurizing me in a way that I just kind of went overload. We dropped my son to, I think Heathrow, might have been, I think it was Heathrow, I think the 28th or the 29th of June 2017. And when I got back here in this house, I collapsed for the next 6 weeks. I just had that was actually my first proper nervous breakdown. I would say actually that was the first proper breakdown of this lifetime. I just completely fell apart. And I wasn't getting any support from my daughter or my ex. So it was I think the summer of 17 was the loneliest summer I had remembered on his ever. Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure why I went back to 17. Do you want to remind me, why did I go from in October 18 I went on holiday by myself, and that okay, and that was when my brain started waking up. In 17 these things were happening, but I didn't wake up and think this is weird. I just just went through a very bad period, but I didn't wake up at all. I was in a complete trance. I didn't notice. I didn't really notice. I just felt lonely and sad, really. I didn't notice why. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Did something happen when you went to holiday that gave you an experience which somehow woke you up?
Well, that's what really woke me up, yes, but that's the following year in 2019. So, October 18, I spent a week in Gran Canaria by myself as my birthday treat to myself. Ah, that's why I went back to 17, actually. Everything bad that happened in 17, come my birthday in October 17, no one did anything for me. Um, after I got my son ready for Camp America. um, okay, all right. Okay, so in 17, I get my son ready for Camp America, and it was the most stressful. It was the first most stressful time that I remembered. I didn't remember ever having that kind of level of stress before. And as I said, I came across a computer file that actually was labeled the Jet Sam event. So I think well, I know now actually it was a pre-planned stress overload exercise, because that's what gang stalkers like their targets to be in permanent stress levels, and they try to literally flood you with stress so that you collapse, basically, I suppose. But anyway, so October 17 was my birthday, and on the day of my birthday, no one did anything for me. There was no meal, there was no cake, there was no presents, there was no nothing. And I was really upset, because I thought, I've just, not only have I just bought a house for all of us to live in that year, I was really stressed, but also I paid £5,000 to take my daughter and my ex to New York in September. So my birthday was in October, but in September I had paid £5,000 to take my ex and my daughter to New York to meet my son finishing Camp America. And I wasn't expecting my birthday to be as it was, you know. So on my birthday, yeah, no present, no meal. I think I got wine. I actually, from when my ex moved in 2016, I did start drinking every single day. So yes, there was definitely wine, but that was it. And I cried a lot on my birthday. And I said to my daughter and my ex, I want to go on holiday for my birthday next year. You know, I want all of us to go on holiday, because my birthday in 2017 was absolutely, I think I was actually quite disgusted. I was disgusted that my daughter and my ex didn't do anything for me. So 2018 comes along. I went on holiday by myself because they didn't want to go on holiday with me. So I went on holiday by myself. So that did start me waking up, I think. I spent 7 days crying by myself in Gran Canaria on my birthday, 2018. And then I got back to England between, I think it was November the 5th that I came back, actually. So between November 18 and May 19, that's when I started freaking out. I had become, I think my ex was drugging me, but I think I was also voluntarily taking lots of marijuana. My ex was leaving me you know, a huge amount when he went off to work in the morning, so I'd stopped going to the office completely. I think I don't know, I can't remember. I think the summer of 17, I think I pretty much eased off the office and was just working at home, which was just, you know, getting less and less. But between October 18 and May, June 19, I was acting like a crazy person. I mean, I wasn't crazy. But I was acting. I I didn't know what was going on. My
Now,
daughter,
what do you call crazy?
not crazy in the sense because I started talking to one or two targeted individuals on Facebook, and some of them have lost their minds. So I don't mean I don't sorry. I can understand why. So I don't mean, well, I was in a trance, but I was far in a trance. So and you can, if you look back, or I looked back at videos I saw of myself, you can see with my eyes that I wasn't there. I was somewhere else. My spirit and my body were not connected. Oh,
No, that was me. Don't worry.
oh, sorry. Um, in Yeah, I sense it when I say crazy. I mean, didn't under my ex and my daughter were always whispering. There was always doors slamming and footsteps, everywhere. At this point, I didn't notice that my ex was stealing my clothes because while I wasn't working, I spent a lot of time fixated to the next sales. I was virtually on making an order with Next pretty much every single week, and I was fixated to all their sales, and I wasn't leaving the house, so I was buying all these clothes and all these shoes for later on when I got the opportunity to go out. But I didn't process the fact that why was I not going out now? I was, things were happening, and I just wasn't. They weren't being processed. They were kind of registering, but then just kind of going way back, and I wasn't processing and registering properly. So when I say crazy, I was, I say, okay, so maybe actually crazy isn't quite the right word to use. I I spent, I think, probably, well, actually, I don't know, but I I was just becoming a bit of a this is embarrassing for me to admit, but it's necessary, I think, to understand. I was stoned 24/7, and I could, all this creeping around, all this weird, all this secrecy, all this running, all these doors slamming. My ex was lying to me about absolutely everything.
I mean, he was
My
obviously. I mean, he was giving you these drugs.
He was every morning. He would literally give me a what do you call it? A when you I can't think of the word. It's just gone from my head. He was giving me. He was saying this is. He wasn't just showing me
I
where
mean,
he
was he
kept.
giving you a bag of drugs or what? Or of
Well,
hash or
marijuana.
whatever you were talking about? I mean, in which
Yes.
case, where was he getting it?
Oh, I think he actually cultivates it. I think he's been cultivating it to include an antipsychotic. He's been. I think he's got friends that grow it, and they. From my experience, I've known my ex for 18 years, and or 17 years, 17 or 18 years, and from my experience of what he's given me and how it feels over the years, I think he's been. I mean, he's admitted to me that his friends, grow it, and they've been playing with the. They've just been playing with it, but I think he's
In
been
what way
cultivating.
was it? Was it how it was herbally grown or what?
Yes, herbally grown.
I mean, did they add something to the soil or something?
I don't know because he's not told me any of that. But he's talked about things where some get sprayed with sugar or sprayed with something. Now, he drawing, or yeah, judging, drawing between the lines of what he's admitted to me and what I know he's been lying to me about. And again, from what he's giving me and my experience of it, he's been turning marijuana into some kind of antipsychotic. That's what it seems like. So he's been, because he was trying to give me lithium for a time. Now, one day he must have, I don't know why. One day he actually asked me to voluntarily take it, and I did. I voluntarily took it, and I said it was horrible. I said I don't want to take that again. But then when you use your
Lithium what? Do you have a
oh
name?
no, he did. All he told me was lithium. But on every occasion that I asked him to leave, I came across a surface with some white powder that was just all over the surface. So I think he was crushing up lithium and putting it in my drinks every day for several years. Because in 2019, what I noticed was when I would hear whispering and creeping around, I couldn't move. My brain was telling me to get up and go, but I couldn't move. I was literally paralyzed to the spot. And I think that's what really scared me in May 2019 was I couldn't move. And I would hear all this stuff going on and I'd want to go get up and go and look. Couldn't make my brain tell my body to move. And I spent 2.5 years in bed where I literally couldn't move.
Well,
So,
I have to say, I mean, how did normal everyday functions work out?
well, that's the point. While I was with my ex, the only normal I didn't do anything normal and functioning. I spent 2.5 years where I couldn't function normally at all. At all. I could have a shower, but half the time that was at the end of the day. It wasn't even at the beginning of the day. I don't know how many months it was, but I didn't get dressed. I stayed in my pajama, I stayed in my dressing gown and yeah, my nightwear. I didn't get dressed. So I wasn't functioning as a human being whatsoever. Now, I would say that's because he upped the dose too much. And I literally became a vegetable.
Okay, continue. I don't want to ask too many questions. Just wondering what was in it for him apart from keeping you prisoner.
Well, okay, yeah, we'll get to that. I
Okay,
think,
continue.
okay, so this was going on really between 1998 and 2016. I had a very, very, very normal life. I was a very busy and active single mother, and I was really good at it. I was really proud. You know, my children always had clean clothes on. They always had their school shoes polished.
How
You know,
many
they always,
children did you have?
well, that's another story, but let's say I just had two.
Okay,
I raised two. Yeah,
okay.
that's another.
And I'm talking about when you're doing that, to how do you get to school? How do you pick them up from school? All those sort of things. How do you feed them? Who does the cooking? All that.
So I drove. Um, well, actually, we cycled sometimes. We cycled to school sometimes, but most of the time we drove. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in bed for 2 years or
Oh,
whatever,
no, no.
how
My
did all that
weird.
happen?
Ah, I didn't. That's the whole thing. Between 1998 and 2016, when my children were not up until 17 and a half and 16 and a half, I did everything by myself. I went to the gym every day. I ran every day. I never ever went to bed in the daytime. I was completely normal, completely 100% functioning. I stopped being a functioning human being I started stopping being a functioning human being from the summer of 16. My ex moved in with my two children and I in January 16. And by the summer of 16, I was part-time, semi-functioning. I could function, but obviously he knew when I
Okay,
had
I'm going to
something.
ask this. I should have asked it earlier. Why
Go
did you
on.
bring your ex into the house? Why was he an ex in the first place? And then bring him back in?
Okay. So my ex and I, we broke up. We broke up June 2019. We got back together after a coma gave me more amnesia, and I didn't remember what happened between 2019 and 2020. Now, should I just go back to 2019 and go to the holiday that did wake my brain up?
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So after everything, sorry. So I just want to just verify, just confirm. 1998 until 2016, I was completely normal. I successfully raised my children by myself, and everything was completely normal and great. I was doing absolutely, I got people praising me all the time because I was doing the job of kind of 6 adults in one, and I did it well. It was when my ex moved in that I was being drugged and I stopped getting out of bed. And then he was there to do all the things that I wasn't able to do because, of course, he was the one knowingly drugging me and then putting me out of action. So he took over. So with everything that happened between the summer of 16 until the summer of 19, I think, well, between October 18 and June 19, I started, although I was not functioning, I was aware that it was a bit weird that my ex was creeping around. And I think I noticed that he was lying from the summer of 18. So by Monday, the 3rd of June, 2019, I knew it wasn't paranoia. I knew that my ex was lying to me about everything because he was starting to use the same lies at different times, and
Have you heard of the term gaslighting?
That's it. That's my ex has been gaslighting me since I met him in 2007. 2007? Yeah. I mean, to be honest, everyone has been gaslighting me since I was kidnapped in 1981. Everyone I've met has gaslit me, really. But I didn't know the term until 2019. So, June the 3rd, 2019, my ex's behavior that day was he was really nasty to me. He was really nasty to me. He was calling me names. He actually told me that if I wanted to come downstairs, I had to let him know before I came down the stairs. And when he said that, alarm bells went off in my head. And it wasn't just that he said I had to let him know before I came downstairs. He made it very clear he didn't want me to come downstairs. And he was going to make me some food, but I had to eat it upstairs. And he was being really, really, really nasty. I mean, he was being really nasty.
What do you mean by that?
He started saying there's something wrong with me, and he just I can't remember the words, but he wanted me to be upstairs, and he wanted me not to be preoccupied with what he was doing downstairs. And I was interfering in his plans. And
what was he doing downstairs?
Well, actually, that's something I only realized recently. I think he was having an affair with my next door neighbor.
It's okay. You don't have to be quiet. So he was having an affair with your next door neighbor.
And so he was getting agitated that I kept trying to come downstairs and check on him. So every time he heard me moving, he would quickly run up the stairs and just, he was being pretty nasty.
So were you having relations at that time?
Yes. Every single day.
If you're stoned out of your head and a zombie, was that, maybe I've over egged the pudding on that, but why bring somebody back into the house that? Well, okay, continue. Sorry.
Okay, no. We were sleeping together every day. It was very, very. It was very, very. What's the word? He would tell me when we were going to do it. It had to be pre-planned, and it could only last 6 to 8 minutes. And it was every single day. I mean, my experience with him has made me, want to be celibate forever now because my experience was not good. Um,
It's a heck of a long time of pain that way. In
Say
terms
again?
of suffering, it wasn't.
Oh, sorry. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if this is something which was robotic, it wasn't. It was a violation. Was it? Or how?
It was horrible because he was recording it and putting it on the dark web.
So he was putting what he was doing with you on the dark web.
Yeah, and I didn't find that out until 2019 when I was in Amsterdam again. But that's a separate. That's yeah. Let me. So Monday, June the 3rd, 2019. I've been obsessed with what my ex is lying to me about since, you know, July 7th, July 18 in Amsterdam. I noticed that he's obsessed with his phone. And then there's the incident with my suitcase and with the lying, and then he goes off and spends a week with his mother in July and August 18. Then I go on holiday by myself October 18. So I'm starting to wonder what he's lying about. I've never he's made out he's a saint. He's made out that he doesn't lie about anything ever. He's made out that he's a kind of one person, never cheat on anyone. He made out that he was cared about the environment, cared about things. And
Except you.
well, no, he doesn't care about anything either. He didn't care about yeah. But basically, between the summer of 18 and the summer of 19, I was becoming obsessed with what he was lying about because I knew he was lying because even when I wasn't functioning properly, my memory is amazing. If someone says something to me, I will remember it. As long as I hear it, I will remember it forever.
So on the outside, you were out of it, but on the inside, you were. And that's an improper term.
No,
Do correct me, but from external appearances, you were submissive and controlled. Is that right? But on the inside, you were.
on the inside, see, the way I try to explain it is, I think with whatever drugs he was giving me, and especially with the marijuana that I think he's cultivated and changed it, instead of something that gets you high, it just paralyzes your body. And whatever he was giving me and whatever I was taking, my body was paralyzed. I couldn't move. Literally, I couldn't move. But my brain was working 100% normally. So it's like when they started treating me like I was stupid, I didn't understand why, but of course it was because I wasn't even, when I say I was physically paralyzed, I also couldn't get my speech out. I could have all these thoughts working absolutely fine, but I couldn't make these thoughts come out through my mouth. So I suppose you're right. My brain was working, but my body just crashed.
So you had recall. You have clear recall of what was going
I
on.
I can remember absolutely everything. I can even remember my 3 week coma dreaming in 2020, which is another story in itself. But yes, I have a good memory, but whatever drugs they have been giving me over the years, and also when I was a child, because after I was kidnapped, I was drugged a lot. And for a lot of that time, they just paralyzed my body. They did not paralyze my brain. So I was able to view and record and kind of leave it there for another time to digest and process. And I think my ex thought he knew me really well, but I would say he didn't actually know me at all because, yeah, I was also very good at playing dead because, I had the experience of the paedophiles that spent 13 years hurting me. So I had experience to know to play dead because
So, okay,
obviously if you put,
where do you want to go into that edge of life as a
oh,
child,
well,
or
shall
do you
I
want to
just
leave
get to
that till
nine?
later?
Yeah, because of course that's it. Let me just, right, okay, so
Okay, continue.
the 3rd of June 2019 was the worst behavior I'd ever seen of my ex. And because I was hearing whispering and talking and blah de blah. I I think I spent about 3 weeks leaving my phone to record, leave it on to record and walk away. I didn't know anything about targeted individuals. I didn't know that my ex was 24/7 surveying me. So I didn't know that all these recordings he was pre-seeing where I'd left the phone and blah blah blah. On the 3rd, I was trying to get all these recordings I had on my phone. I was trying to take them off my phone and put them on this MyCloud device that was a physical device that then put it up to the cloud. And nothing was working. And I
What type of phone is it? Was it an iPhone or a
uh, at that
Samsung?
at that point it was a Samsung 8. I think I was coming close to the end of my 2-year contract. And in April 2019, I had just got a replacement Samsung 8. So it was brand new, but it was under the contract that I think finished. Well, actually, it might have been 3 or 4 months later. Um, but it was a good phone, actually. But it went from being able to store 5,000 photos and videos to suddenly not being able to store anything, which I think when you're being hacked in a certain way, suddenly your memory doesn't work. So it was this day that I noticed, I suppose, the cyber attack element of what's going on. Anyway, I messed about with these recordings all day and all night. And he went to bed, and at 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, he must have gotten out of bed. I am assuming it was just the two of us in the house that day. My son actually had moved out in August 18 into university accommodation. In So yeah, about 2 in the morning, my ex got out of bed, really cross that I wasn't going to bed. But of course, I was having a massive wow day. Monday, the 3rd of June, 2019 is when I knew he was cheating on me. In this previous 6 months, he'd been coming home with either lipstick or perfume or or other stuff on him. And his lies didn't make sense. He made a lie, but from an accountant's point of view, if you lie about something that doesn't fit into the timescale of your lying, I go with scientific facts kind of thing. Don't kind of tell me that you've done something that takes 5 minutes, but you've not explained what you were doing for 4 hours. He didn't. I think he thought because I was so out of it, I don't think he realized that my brain still was working. I was still on the days that I wasn't obsessing over what he was lying about. I could still do a VAT return, no problem. I could still compartmentalize and focus, and my brain would work when it was channeled in the right direction. So, and as I said before, my brain didn't really stop working. It was just I was getting obsessed with what is going on because I felt the evil, I felt the darkness, I felt the lying, and it was horrible. I mean, any woman will tell you when her husband or partner is cheating. If you've got a husband that you've been with for I don't know how many years, and he's sleeping with someone else, if a man has sex with another woman, You can't get all you. I don't think any amount of showers are going to actually hide the fact that you've just had sex with another woman, especially if said woman doesn't actually use the shower herself personally. So it was really obvious. And so anyway, at 3 o'clock in the morning on the
So
third on
the
Monday.
thing which it gets me is that you have an ex that has left you, and that's why he's the ex. Or did you kick? What happened to hit
uh,
for him to be an ex?
okay, so I kicked him out on Monday, the 3rd of June, 2019.
Okay, so you're referring to him as an ex after he's been with you, but he wasn't an ex when he moved back in. I'm confused about that.
Right. Okay. What bit are you confused? Sorry.
I thought he moved. You referred to him as an ex when he came back into the house. He wasn't the ex then.
Ah, okay. Sorry. I beg your
So
pardon.
I thought you'd left him, and then you're dealing with an ex-boyfriend who's moved back in, but he hadn't. He wasn't an ex then.
No, he became my ex in July 18. He moved out for a week, and then another week in August, but we didn't really separate. So he became my ex officially on June the 3rd, 2019.
Okay, so this is so during the time he was with you, he was not your ex-partner.
He was my partner then. I'm so sorry.
Okay,
Yes.
I thought, yeah, this is why I was being confused. Why have you got your ex back in the house? Okay,
Yeah, no,
fine. Okay,
sorry.
we've cleared that
No.
bit up. Anyway, we're
He
into the first hour. We're just going through the first hour, so uh, keep going. Okay, sweetheart. Do you
Okay,
mind
yes,
me
sorry.
saying, sweetheart? That's the.
No, 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 no. I don't have many people that are endearing towards me. So no.
I don't want to be
Um,
accused of being patronising or anything else. But okay,
no,
so now
sorry.
we've actually cleared up that he isn't your ex until you finally kicked him out or left.
No, no. He moved in 2016 and he didn't become an ex, yeah, until the 3rd of June
So
2019.
in 2016, your children were what age?
Uh, my son was 17 and a half and my daughter was 16 and a
So
half.
what happened the first 17 years?
I was a very, very, very good single mother.
So what,
Uh,
after all this time, did you bring the father back in basically when.
ah, not he was not the father.
Okay, fine. That's another thing we have. So he's not the father of the children. Do the children have different fathers?
Yes, they do.
And you've said that the father that these two children who were staying with you may not have been the only children you've had. Is that right?
I think I gave birth to twins on the 1st of July, 1998,
Right. So one of the twins was taken from you.
by the hospital. Yes.
Okay. Now that's very important because there's other people who've had that situation happen where you keep one and they take the other.
Yeah. Well, they told me it was a placenta that I gave birth to.
It was a what?
Uh, they told me it was a placenta. They told me that the second baby was a placenta.
What does that mean?
You know when you have a baby,
Yeah.
the baby's attached to a placenta.
Yes.
Um, and it wasn't until the following year when I gave birth to my daughter, and I said to the midwife, "Don't I have to now spend another 10 minutes pushing the placenta out?" And she told me that the placenta came out with the baby. So,
So you didn't know that you'd given birth. So they lied to you about the
yes,
first twin.
yes.
I mean, did they not tell you that you had twins with ultrasound and whatever?
No, no, I was told I only had one. I felt two move. I felt two move inside me, and I was a little excited. I thought their technology wasn't good enough to see that there was two in there.
Now,
Um, I,
when are we talking about now?
1998, this
I think
is.
they had the technology to do that a lot longer ago.
Oh, I know. But this was their pre-plan because I was already government property from 1981 when they kidnapped me.
Okay.
This is why I have my neighbors. I mean, I can hear my neighbor outside now. This is being recorded for their records as well.
So they're hearing what you're saying now.
Yes, the when you sit in the lounge, and I didn't really know where else to sit. But when I'm sitting here, they can hear me as loudly as you can because the acoustics in this room mean that my voice is going out there, so they're getting a very clear recording of this.
Well, I've heard. So what I'm looking for is okay. We've basically introduced the first hour with the issues of finally your boy your well your he's not the
Shit.
father of the children. Who was?
Uh, well, another two separate Freemasons. They both treated me very, very badly too. I mean, I haven't had a relationship that I didn't get abused in. I haven't had a normal relationship because obviously the Freemasons have kept me very, very tightly under wrap and under, I've been surveyed 24/7 since 1981.
So have they used you as a breeding mare, so to speak?
No, they wanted me to be a prostitute.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, I wasn't going to do that, but I think you said to me last night, more or less, how did I get out?
Yeah.
And I just lied heavily. And I didn't just lie, I created a false persona. And I created a false persona. Um, yeah.
Now,
I
is
create.
there any particular reason why they chose you? Do you have any genetic interest to them in some way or other?
I think my parents fitted me with something underneath my fontanelle.
Your parents did that.
I think so. I'm not 100%. I would like to be. I would
And
like it.
do you have a history or any background to your parents or your mother particularly? Because that's how I think they track the genes. In
Um,
other words, I'm looking for something special as to why you.
I think. I think I could have been taken from Princess Diana's wedding.
You would have been it's run that by me again exactly.
I don't have any memories of the wedding I was at, but I know I was at a wedding in 1981. I remember being on my mother's lap and I was sharing the fruit cake, and I wasn't allowed much because it was too rich. And I don't remember exactly, but I think a maid offered to take me to get some a snack. I don't, and again, I mean, these are memories I have in my head, but they could be planted memories. They might not be my own, but these are the memories that I have.
Well, at least if we get a clear identification of what happened in a given memory, then we at least know something.
Well, anyway, I have a memory of being in a scullery and eating some Ritz crackers. I don't believe I ever saw my parents again. I think the maid took me to the Clermont Club where Malcolm Kessel was a manager. And I think that was the beginning of my kidnap journey before I met my trafficked parents. And my trafficked parents are friends with my current neighbours.
So, what about your original parents?
No, so my original parents were with me at the wedding that I was at in 1981. One minute I was sitting on my mother's lap eating some wedding cake, and the next minute I was in the scullery with the maid eating some Ritz crackers. And then the next thing I know, I'm waking up on a hotel bed with a maid.
Now,
And I know,
a scullery is something that's not necessarily in a normal sort of ordinary house these days.
well, in 2022, I looked on the internet and the layout of Buckingham Palace matched the memory I had of being by the window looking out at a driveway with a tree.
So, when you say that you were at the wedding, you were inside Buckingham Palace at the wedding of Lady Diana and Charles?
I definitely think that's a possibility. I don't know that it's definite. I could have been at a different wedding with my parents, but my memories say I went to Buckingham Palace.
And all that, waving and all that sort of stuff. You were in the Buckingham Palace in the background somewhere.
Oh wait, oh, but that's the thing. I don't know. Maybe.
But what do you mean by the scullery? And it matches. I mean, Buckingham Palace is quite a big place. It's quite a big official building. It probably has more than one kitchen, or does it? I mean, in terms
I
of.
don't know. All I know is I mean, these are memories that only came back to me in 2022.
I mean, a
But
scullery is something which is in an old-fashioned
it
type of
was,
big house.
it was definitely a stately home that I was in. I mean, it was the scullery that I was in. There must have been at least a dozen maids in there, at least, and it was huge because there was a massive table in the middle with lots of maids in full uniform. You know, they had the hats and they had the black and the white, and they were in full uniform, and there was a big table that they were all kind of standing around. So I when these memories came back to me, I wasn't certain if they could be planted memories
Okay, but
or
what age were you then?
five.
Oh, so that's a developed age. I mean, you're not. Okay.
I mean, when my memories first came back to me, and I didn't know the state of the world, I wrote to every single newspaper. You know, I wrote to the BBC very foolishly, forgetting about Jimmy Savile and their and Epstein and Andrew. I can't believe I did that. I wrote to BBC, to Sky, to the New York Times. I wrote my story to every single newspaper and
And I mean, do you still have that story? Do you have it?
yes, I will email it to you.
Okay.
I was going to, but it's just I keep getting locked out of my email accounts. They keep and I spend a lot of time going around in circles, and I find
So, I mean, would they have just said, "Oh, this is a wannabe publicity person," or what?
I don't think
I
so.
mean, did
I
you get
don't
any response, even a response saying "thank you but goodbye" or something?
know. My last email to the BBC was last September, and I got reported to the police because I mentioned justice, targeted justice in America. Because in last September, October, I discovered targeted individuals. And as soon as I mentioned that word to the BBC, they sent the police round.
So we don't want to mention that term, the target individual, again.
Oh, definitely not. No.
So we better not. That's a TI.
Because I had been writing to the BBC. I started writing to the BBC in January 22, and I wrote to them every week, every month while I was writing my
Well,
memories.
the BBC is quite a large organisation. Who, what department, what TV show, radio show did you write to?
All of them.
Dear BBC, blah 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 blah.
I can
Do you have
forward you the
any idea
email.
about which department? BBC News, documentaries.
I did about 12 different sections in the BBC.
Did you write to, for instance, Esther Ranson or somebody? She does the Childline thing.
Oh, well, I phoned Childline as a child while I was being raped. So I found out very early on that that's a bad organisation.
In what way are you saying that's a bad organisation?
They don't help children.
For
Yeah,
what do you mean by that? Surely a BBC running this charitable group is meant to help children.
from my experience, all charities are bad. And from my experience, all charities are part of the international child sex trafficking industry.
That's a big thing to say. Could you explain that term?
Um, Well, I suppose as an accountant, I've come across, I don't know, maybe I've come across maybe a dozen businesses that do really bad money laundering. I mean, really obvious money laundering. But
Okay, what I'm going to do is, I think because we've been running for an hour and 15 minutes, I think it's worthwhile having a bit of a pause, and then if you get your thoughts together, maybe we
mhm.
could continue later this evening.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you want to get any sort of information in a row, because we're now going into a different sort of rather
Okay, let's
deeper
do that.
realm.
Shall I just quickly go to June 19 up to the
Yeah, if
autumn?
you want to sort of tidy this sort of
Yeah.
first section off, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So when I kicked my ex out on June the 3rd, 2019, as soon as he was gone, the very following day, my son contacts me and tells me that I've got to drive him to London on June the 5th, 2019. And I was, I spent 48 hours just crying. I couldn't swallow, I couldn't drink. I didn't shower for 2 days. I didn't drink, I couldn't eat. And my son told me I had to drive him to London on the 5th of June to take him to this Jewish thing, which again I've got the details for that because a lot of the Jewish organizations are also connected to Epstein. So
But I mean, is he Jewish or are you Jewish? I mean, is this something
uh
that would be part of the family or what? Why would you need to go to a Jewish thing?
my trafficked family are Jewish. I'm not biologically born into a Jewish family. I was born into a normal family.
Well, what do you mean a normal family?
Yeah. Um,
Well, obviously
I
it
don't.
wasn't a normal family because it's led to this.
Oh no, 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 no. My family aren't anything to do with this. I was kidnapped away from my family,
Okay, but why you?
and I think because my parents put something
Right.
just underneath the fontanelle before it grew over. I think.
Is that why you do you go through? I don't want to confuse other people's letters and things, but do you go through airport stuff and all that, and they all keep going off?
Yeah, yeah. I very rarely. I mean, when I started going through the airport more often, they didn't always do that if I'd already been back through that particular airport. But yes, it was always going off, and I was always being asked, and I didn't have any knowledge or memory or anything. But yes, and I don't know that for a fact, but it's when you've got memories that come back and you don't have the information, you don't have another person to corroborate them or to explain them to you. It's it's not. I'd like somebody to corroborate what is true and what is just a fake memory. But yes,
Okay.
that's what I believe. So
Okay. Well,
anyway,
if you tidy this off, then we'll
yes,
round it up, and then we'll get back.
okay,
Okay.
yeah. So Monday, no, sorry, I think it was Wednesday. But the 5th of June, 2019, I drive my son to London and I've got tears rolling down my eyes. I almost get knocked off the motorway by this massive lorry because I couldn't see properly because I was crying so much. I spent the day in London with my son. We left at like 8:45 in the morning and I got back at 2:45 the following morning. And that was the first day that I realized I had trespassers because they'd plugged my I'd unplugged my computer, I'd turned the internet off, and I'd changed the password, and they'd plugged my computer back in, they'd left it plugged in, they'd put it back on the internet, and they'd been rummaging in my house. So June the 5th, 2019 is the first day that I discovered I had trespassers. I didn't know anything about it before then. So not only did I discover I had trespassers, I discovered I had trespassers. And then for the next few days, I start hearing the woman that had raped me as a child that became my trafficked mother. And basically, few things happened, but I went the next week. I went to Amsterdam. I felt too scared to stay in this house by myself because of all the weird noises that I was hearing, and I was, I heard cars drive up at like 3 in the morning, and I was getting a bit spooked. So, in June 2019, I went to Amsterdam. I was incontrollably grieving for my children because I just suddenly noticed that, they weren't there with me, supporting me. At this point, I thought my daughter was having an affair with my ex because of all the lying. Um,
I mean,
and so
so
I
that's
went
not
to,
a biological father. So it
no,
wasn't okay. Fine.
no, it was just the fact that I never thought I'd lose my children because I loved them so much. I thought they loved me back. So when they started being mean to me when I was going through, all these problems with my ex, I basically I broke down. I literally broke down. In 2019, I think I was just like a grieving person. I cried inconsolably. I mean, I reckon I could have literally filled several buckets in 2019. I spent 3 months in Amsterdam crying and crying and crying, but also taking a lot of the Amsterdam drugs. Um, and while I was in Amsterdam, um, I actually went to Leeds. I actually took a flight from Amsterdam to Leeds to meet with a Samsung employee who advised me I was under cyber attack and I had to phone the police and report my ex for cyber attacking me. So in 2019, I report my ex to the police for cyber attacking me. Um, and in Amsterdam, I experienced group gang stalking behavior for the first time in my memory. I had actually experienced it when I was a child, but I had no memory of it. So in the summer of 2019, I experienced group gang stalking by the Park Plaza Amsterdam Airport in Amsterdam. And I also have people come and tell me that I'm on the dark web. I'm a bit of a porn star in Amsterdam on the dark web because my ex has been posting stuff up
I
there.
mean, where were
So
you
that,
staying in Amsterdam? I mean, it's not known. I mean, it's a very nice city, but it's got red light districts and things.
well, I actually got kidnapped by a pimp, and I actually got locked up in his flat for 2 days as well. um, I was staying at the Park Plaza Amsterdam Airport, a Radisson hotel. I
That's
thought it
not
was
cheap. That.
no. Um,
So who was paying?
oh, I paid. I had lots of credit cards that were zero because I was someone, my credit rating was excellent, and I was someone that always did not balance transfers and not balance, I was able to,
Yeah. Well,
because I
okay.
was, yeah,
Right. I've got to actually go and try and do something now. So we'll resume shortly. Okay.
okay,
And if you get your things in a row in terms of what you want to accomplish in part two, and if you want
okay,
to do a part three, we could do that. Okay.
okay. Do you want to give me any indicators of what you think would be good to,
Well, you know what you've done and where you want to go with
okay,
this. I don't. So it's
okay,
always organic.
all right,
It's up to you how you want to reveal it. But you've mentioned a couple of things there. If you wanted to write that down on a bit of paper yourself and say, well, do this, do that, do this, that would help. Okay.
okay,
So
all
this
right,
is part one. It's an introduction, and probably give it a different separate basis number. That's a big deal. Okay, and figure out what we want to be sort of known as in terms of, do you want to be a TI or no? What collectively do you want to sort of? It's awful to label things, but we at least need some idea of what you are.
well, I regard myself as possibly the only survivor of the Epstein and Monarchs kidnaps that they didn't manage to make into a prostitute. from my understanding, if you get kidnapped by the Epstein Foundation, you are then a prostitute for life, or they kill you. But so I think I'm the only person that got kidnapped that's kind of out in the open air, so to speak, but I'm not in the open air because I'm a prisoner in Brandsburg.
Right. Well, that's the first time you've used that slightly important name.
Oh, Epstein.
Epstein. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was kidnapped by the Epstein Foundation, and obviously, I don't know if you know that Playboy was part of that.
Well, that's up for you to say, and it's your on. Okay. So, is that a fact?
Well, I definitely. Well, I guess it has to be because I was definitely kidnapped by Playboy, and my memories say I was definitely at Buckingham Palace.
Okay, that's according to your recall.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on that, I've got to.
Okay.
I've got to pick something up. Okay.
Okay.
You take care.
All right.
Okay, I'm coming out of record, and just so you can see that, it's just amazing that I can do this. It's just